One episode 628 of the Barcelona podcast brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hilton, and hey, who doesn't love a one-sided Catalan derby? I certainly do. Espanyol probably doesn't. If you're new to the channel or to the podcast because you discovered me after Barcelona looked like they're ready to climb to the top of the mountain again after wins against Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, again, welcome to the show. Whether in your ears or your eyes, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, give a like to the video. That's always a big help. Or support the show. I have a Patreon. You can find these shows without the ads over there. Or I have a team store with all that Barcelona podcast merch. And if you want new ideas, I've got some percolating that I'd like to put up there, but I need to know that people still know that the store exists. So without further ado, though, let's jump in. Here are the 3-1-5 headlines from Barcelona's victory over Espanyol. Headline one is Olmo on target. I'm not going to talk too much about Lewandowski today, but I begin this 5 headlines talking about how unselfish Lewandowski was in the victory today and why, especially on these 3 goals, he does certainly play a factor. In the 8th minute, he showed you how unselfish he was to start this game. He worked hard to help get the ball back, and then he put it out wide to Lamine Yamal, who flicked it on to Hector Fort, who crossed it in for the head of Olmo, but it goes over, and Olmo, the late runner here, as the number 10. And I did talk all about the number 10 spot at Barcelona, or the attacking midfielder. I guess let's not call it a number 10, but the attacking midfielder spot in that 4-2-3-1 for Hansi Flick. I talked about that within the last 48 hours over on the channel or the podcast app. So check that out over there. 10th minute, a weak shot into the goalkeeper, but Barcelona were on the front foot to start this match. The first thing to note, by the way, in the first 10 minutes here, is that Barcelona had no trouble taking the ball back from Espanyol. They had no issues on the press. Espanyol just not good enough on the ball or unable to get it out of their own half in the first half. And so Barcelona were just taking it back in Espanyol's half of the field over and over and over again to start this match. And that did lead to the 12th minute goal, the first goal for Barcelona, the 1-0. Dani Olmo's first. Olmo scores at the near post with Lamine Yamal delivering in another dime, an absolute dime, with the outside of his boot again on a platter to Olmo. And the key here, the Olmo space at the near post was created almost at the late runner there because of the massive players at the back post, including Lewandowski and Rafinha. Balde also out wide. Pedri was ready to make that late run underneath Rafinha and Lewandowski. And this, again, all starts because as the pivot dropping in kind of where Busquets used to really create a lot of good stuff for Barcelona, Castado with that switch of play quickly on the ground over to the other side. And I thought that really helped all of this kind of come to fruition here. 18th minute, jumping ahead to Espanyol's first chance. Barcelona failed to clear, and Poitot shoots wide. And I did kind of say in the live stream on YouTube with the preview that if it didn't come from the boot of Poitot being created by Huffray, I didn't really expect much from Espanyol. So Poitot getting on the ball early, maybe that was a warning sign for Barcelona that he might have had something to do here. He has been the guy for Espanyol for years now, and he was my man to watch for Espanyol. And yeah, I guess he showed it early, but Espanyol didn't really have much to show for in the first half of this game in totality. Headline 2 is Espanyol hesitated, because in the first half, they were definitely hesitating, and that hesitation from Espanyol led to the second goal for Barcelona in the 23rd minute. And I did kind of say in the first half on the watch along on Big Up Aplenty that Espanyol, they're kind of bad. I did pick them to get relegated this season, and while they are not ending the day in the relegation zone, Las Palmas took a loss today. Real Valladolid also lost this weekend. So I do feel like, yes, between Real Valladolid and Las Palmas, and then Valencia didn't play. That game was postponed against Real Madrid. They're all below Espanyol on the table, but I think all 3 of those teams, what I've seen in the Liga this season, are better than Espanyol. So I do expect Espanyol to go right back down to the second division, and they kind of have become a yo-yo club for a reason. Barcelona, they had prolonged possession here in the 23rd, and Espanyol trying to clear, desperately trying to clear, wasn't happening. Castado delivering a delightful ball. Both Lewandowski and Rafinha were making that diagonal run into the box. Espanyol defenders were 2v2 here, but Romero hesitated for a moment, and Rafinha got goal side and then chipped the keeper. For Rafinha, it's now 11 goals in 15 matches. Last season, he had 10 goals in 37 matches. A different Rafinha, a superstar level Rafinha. Awesome stuff from the Brazilian, just continuing to score goals at a high clip this season. And of course, on Big Up, we do have the tactics board. So I want to show you this second goal as well. I just already said it, but let me repeat it all. This kind of all starts because Lamine Yamal and Lewandowski and Rafinha are all kind of in the same spot here. And Lamine Yamal drops off because of how dangerous he is. So this Espanyol guy here in this little area of the field has to come over to Lamine Yamal. And so that leaves a 2v2 with Rafinha and Lewandowski. And they kind of go together and make this run in together. Almost a little bit farther out here, and Pedri trying to make the run in here. And because, again, Lewandowski is such a threat, I think that's what makes Romero hesitate here. And then again, this ball, this beautiful ball delivered in from Casado that just on a dime comes in here. And then Rafinha, as we know, as long as you make a curling run in, you can find some space. So this all kind of works out for Barcelona. And here comes the ball in from Casado. Yeah, perfectly put in there from, again, the tactics board on Big Up. And then that ball perfectly coming in from Casado into Rafinha. Beautiful stuff from Barcelona here on the second goal. And then in the 28th minute, sure, maybe a little bit of a chance for Espanyol. Looks like they're going to get a goal, but again, pretty darn close here. Nico Martinez almost keeping the player on, but playing with fire. That's Barcelona, of course, playing with fire. But I'm never really too worried about Hansi Flick and Barcelona because the stat here is that Barcelona, at the end of that first half, 82 times they've had their opponent jump offside, and that was more in the second half too. The next closest to them as of halftime of this game was Osasuna at 35. So 82 to 35 in the Liga. That tells you that it's more than just Barcelona playing with fire and getting lucky. This is a fine-tuned system that Hansi Flick is operating with. And yeah, this is just awesome from Barcelona, both defensively, but instead of what I've showed you offensively too, the pressure and the press, that is what's from front to back looking so much better. And for more on that, I spoke earlier in the week with Alex Delmas. We talked all about the tactics of the offside trap. So whether in the feed or on the YouTube channel, you can find that. And hey, have a look or give a listen because that is much more tactics heavy than what I just told you here about the offside trap today. Headline 3 is no pressure. And what I'm talking about is Espanyol giving Barcelona no pressure on the ball in the first half, and also probably no pressure on Barcelona to have to score another, but they do anyway. The 3-0 comes in the 31st minute and is built up from the back. Espanyol were trying to get the ball back. They were kind of fighting. There was a little bit of energy, yes, but they could not win those second balls. And that's been a theme this season. When Barcelona win the second balls, when they win the 50-50s, because of that structure that they're set up in to overload the middle of the park, opponents just cannot get the ball out wide enough when they go to clear. And so Balde just jumps on it. He came inside to help with that numerical overload in the middle. So he jumps on the ball, takes the space on the dribble in the middle, which is where he's kind of most comfortable with it, squares it to Olmo, and Olmo lines it up with no defender putting much pressure on him at all. Everyone else was more concerned with Rafinha and Lewandowski making those runs in. So Olmo gets his brace, put enough on it, puts it in the back of the net. And now Barcelona at that point in their last 77 minutes in the Liga, they had 7 goals in the last 77 minutes. That's 1 goal every 11 minutes. At that point, with 0 goals against, that is just incredible. If that's what you're going to call Hansi Flick ball, creating a ton of chances and scoring goals, that's what I would love to call that. So awesome in Barcelona, up 3-0. Then as we ended that first half, some worries there. Casado goes down twice. Was it a hamstring, a groin, or maybe just the ball knocked the wind out of him on that second time he went down? A little bit worried there. Maybe that's why he came off. But hey, this kid works hard, fights hard. He also has been pretty durable throughout his career. So the fact that he came back on in the second to start that match, the fact that the trainers kind of let him stay on in that circumstance, I'm not too worried about him. 43rd minute, Lamine Yamal just missing Pedri on the in-swing cross. Pedri had to stay onside. And this is another moment here on this cross where I kind of circled it. Espanyol doing an awful job, and I do use the word awful here. They were doing an awful job in the first half pressuring the ball, and they also were not tracking runners well. So if you don't pressure the ball and stop long shots or crosses, and you don't track runners, that's why you're down 3-0 in halftime. And the stats here from Espanyol in the first half, really, really tremendous. And I say that really tongue-in-cheek. 98 passes for Espanyol in the first half. Barcelona finished the first half with 364 passes. Again, Espanyol did not reach 100. 22% of possession. They were offside 5 times. 69%, not nice. 69% on their passing and 0 shots on target. Espanyol had one of the worst first halves I have seen in the Liga in quite some time. Jumping ahead to the second half, Pedri, 48th minute, an A-plus ball to Olmo, but Olmo, you could tell he was pushing for that hat trick. Just took too many touches trying to set himself up for the shot. Also missing Lamine Yamal when he probably could delivered a really good ball in, but he was searching for his hat trick. You could tell he was pushing for it, knowing he was coming off soon, but yeah, I guess you can't blame him. This only his sixth match of the season, and 2 more goals puts him at 5 on the season. Now Barcelona have 4 players with more than 5 goals, and they're led by Lewandowski with a 14. Rafinha has 11. Lamine Yamal with 6. This is just bonkers goal scoring from Barcelona in the first 3 months of the season. Headline 4 is Espanyol's pride. I guess let's give a few compliments to Espanyol because I've been really hard on them in the first half. They had a terrible first half, but they did rebound a bit with some energy in the second half. They didn't allow Barcelona to score, and I think some of it had to do with Barcelona being in second gear, but I think the subs for Barcelona also weren't great. 56th minute, Fermin Lopez and Frankie de Jong on for Castado and Olmo. And yeah, I guess it does make sense that, as I said, Olmo was pushing hard and Castado was also pushing hard in different ways. So those two came out. 58th minute, offside again for Espanyol. The subs came on, and I think if this goal had been scored, Hansi Flick would not have been happy with it at all. For those who've been with me for a while, you know nothing fires me up and nothing fires coaches up more than when you concede from a throw-in. That is a dead ball situation that you cannot concede from. There's a very low percentage that goals are scored from those spots. And going back to even the Ronald Koeman days, too many goals under Ronald Koeman were scored from throw-ins, either Barcelona throw-ins or throw-ins from the opposition. So this would have really set him off, but it was offside. Fort kept, it looked like Joffre on, but he didn't. Joffre, the cross in to Alvaro Tejera, but again, they wipe it off. 60th minute, the counterattack from Espanyol. This is a great stop from Iñaki Peña on Puado. The only time that Iñaki Peña was truly called into action in this game. Espanyol were playing with a little more something at that point in the second half. And then they do get their goal 3 minutes after that. In the 63rd, this is much better from Joffre. Romero, the overlapping run, and Puado at the back post. No chance for Peña here. Cubarsí and Enrique Martinez both went to Chedira, and then Balde had been pushed upfield. I actually don't really blame Balde too much here. He just couldn't get back in time because where Barcelona had given it away, it was a quick counterattack and couldn't get back to that far post to Puado. As I said, Barcelona were not great since the subs came on. When Frankie de Jong came on against Real Madrid, he changed the entire course of that game. Espanyol, this almost was the opposite. Not the best from Frankie de Jong. I don't know what it was. I'll have to go back to it. Somebody on the watch long did mention, and credit to him here, that Frankie de Jong and Pedri seemed a bit farther apart from each other than Castado and Pedri were. So I don't know if there's something wrong with spacing or Frankie de Jong is kind of just getting back into a rhythm that we saw a much better version of him against Real Madrid than we did against Espanyol today. So yeah, not great from Frankie de Jong. And somebody also mentioned that most of what Espanyol were doing well was coming down Fort's side of the field on the right side. But also, I think that's very much on purpose. So not to defend Fort too far, but I also think it's on purpose to play through Joffre Carreras. That is what Espanyol has been doing for so much of this season. And then having Puado either coming in late or making a run to the near or far post and kind of picking his poison there. That is the way Espanyol have been playing. So I don't put that on Hector Fort, who I thought in his 6th appearance this season, his second start of the year, he was okay. I don't think he was great, but I thought in the first half, especially defensively, he was good enough. And he did have some good moments, both underlapping and overlapping. And I think you could actually hear on the broadcast assistant coaches and Hansi Flick kind of telling him when to push forward to support Lamine Yamal and either underlap or overlap there. And I said he had some good moments in the first half, but just as Barcelona kind of fell off a little bit in the second, so did Hector Fort. Which does kind of sum up headline 5, ending in second gear. 73rd minute, Pau Cubarsí, maybe a handball question for Espanyol. A little check, but I don't think so. Definitely just a close quarters deflection. Off the corner, Espanyol couldn't keep it in from going over the goal line, or Espanyol might have had 2 at that point. 75th minute, though, I did see a good response from Barca here, winning the ball back again, sneaking around the Espanyol players that were sleeping. 78th minute, then Koundé on for Fort. I already spoke about Fort in his 6th appearance of the season. 80th minute, Rafinha still working hard, cheers up, all the thumbs up to Rafinha, gives everything to win a corner for Barcelona. And then the 84th minute, off goes Rafinha, off goes Pedri. Really solid games from those two, especially. And then on comes Gavi and Ansu Fati, who I know we're all wanting something good to happen. Ansu immediately on the pass, finding an offside for Fermin, who shot it wide. But hey, good stuff from Ansu. And then, as I said, Barca ending the game in second gear. They weren't switching the field with the same purpose that they were in the first half either. So I just thought that, players were kind of waiting for that final whistle. They didn't want to get hurt, so they were sitting on the ball a little bit longer. Everybody, I should say, but Gabi, he has no second gear, as we know. Crazy tackle from him in the 91st minute. Gabi being Gabi, glad that he didn't get a quick yellow. Want him to keep and save all those yellow opportunities for when he goes back into the starting lineup. You'd expect him to get a few more starts, maybe after the international break. That would be my prediction, or maybe even to the new year. Ansu Fati with a late goal, but unfortunately it was offside. He did get to see the ball go into the back of the net, so maybe that's a positive thing. I said it on the watch along. Why I care so much about Ansu Fati and what he's doing at this point, it doesn't seem like Pau Victor is trusted. And as far as Ferran Torres, he is out right now, but he also really wasn't his best either in the first part of this season. So I do think that FC Barcelona does need some kind of fourth attacker to step up in case Rafinha or Lewandowski or Lamine Yamal go down. Yes, Dani Olmo is scoring goals. Yes, he can play on the wing. Yes, Pau Victor again is available. Ferran Torres will be back. But I just think that they do need an actual forward to be able to play on that, not even the left wing, but to be able to come in and be a difference maker and add some goals. We're at a point because of the depth of the midfield. And when Eric Garcia and Christensen and Araujo come back, the depth on the back line, yes, there's a drop off at the fullback position, but with the versatility of other players as well on the back line, I'm not that worried. But for depth purposes, I would like to see a fourth forward kind of step up for Barca just to make me feel good about the springtime and a lot of minutes. Again, Lamine Yamal going 90 again today. And lastly, speaking of forwards, if anyone has a right to be frustrated, it was probably Lewandowski in this game. He had a good shift, worked hard, but a few times he got looked off at the back post, especially by Lamine Yamal and one by Koundé, one or two times by Fort. So I would have liked to see, Lewandowski getting fed. I know I can't believe I'm saying this, but I would like to see Lewandowski maybe fed a little bit more. But the fact that he kind of seemed taken in stride, Lewandowski scoring goals this year, and goals make him happy. I know he didn't have one today. He probably would have wanted one, but the fact that he's 14 already, I'm not too worried about Lewandowski at all. Big picture here. Barcelona is now up 9 in the table with Valencia versus Real Madrid being postponed this weekend due to the flooding in Valencia, which again, we do hope they can recover that whole community as fast as possible and limit the damage and the loss of life. Though hundreds of lives have already been lost, many more missing, displaced. This is a really sad thing happening in Valencia. So for good reason, that game postponed. But for Barcelona, because they did play this weekend, it does put them up 9 in the table with Real Madrid having now a game in hand. And for the next match, again, the reason why I think Fort started this one over Koundé for rotation purposes, Barcelona are back in the Champions League. And for that preview for the Champions League against Red Star Belgrade, I'll have that on YouTube with the live stream at 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday, and then the watch along on Big Up at 3 p.m. So again, 2:30 p.m. YouTube live stream preview, and then a watch along on Big Up at 3 p.m. Remember, to help me out on the show, Patreon, as low as $3, you can find these shows without the ads. And then the store is a way to directly help me. That's the Barcelona podcast in the show notes or the description. And then the closed Facebook group or the big Facebook group, Discord, Twitter, Instagram. Those are all the ways to join the community here. And I really appreciate all the talk and chatter and all the positivity that everybody has had as Barcelona are just continuing to excel throughout this first half of the season, which just is awesome. It is fun to have fun again watching Barcelona when they're winning against Bayern Munich, winning against Real Madrid, and then winning the Catalan derby, and all of that happening in a week, also blowing out Sevilla in the weekend before. So really good stuff from Barcelona. This has been fun. I hope you continue to join me for this adventure. And as always, until next time, Forza Barca.